And we are back, Peanut Gallery. So this was my choice. And so before we get into it, I chose to do New Blood Rising's review just because it's a very infamous pay-per-view.
We never saw the whole event.
No.
I've seen snips, I've seen matches, I haven't seen the event from top to bottom.
Right. And I did not know this, but like the 2 days before we actually watched this yesterday, was the 20th anniversary of this pay-per-view.
So that's kind of cool.
I know. I thought it was really neat. So New Blood Rising, WCW, this was in 2000.
Yeah, so
really
this is when it started. This is when it was downhill. This is when it was taking its slide,
Yep.
and you can tell it was just taking its slide, and it was just going away.
And obviously the crowd was not full. We saw a bunch of empty seats.
Yep. So the arena that it was in seats 16,000 people. The total attendance for the event was about 6,000. So there were like the upper two bowls were completely empty and cordoned off.
Yep.
And the lower bowl and the floor were the stages. It wasn't even filled up to capacity.
Right. It was not. I mean, it wasn't like super bad, and the crowd were trying to get into it in some places, but it just looked. I mean, the camera angles, they did an actually okay job of hiding it.
Oh yeah.
But there were some camera angles where you just simply couldn't avoid it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it just looks really dark. But it's like, oh, this is actually a decent sized arena, and they just couldn't fill it.
Right.
But anyway, the opening video was. There were so many colors and
welcome to the 2000s.
So many filters, and this is in August of 2000, so like you're still gonna get some 90s in here.
Oh yeah.
But it was really stressful, and it built nothing, and I have no idea what was happening. It was so distracting.
It was very distracting.
It was very distracting. They had like different filters and colors
Yep.
at every single shot.
I know.
So you had no idea what was happening.
Right.
And then we just jump immediately into a match.
Right.
It was 3 count versus the Jung Dragons.
The Young Dragons.
No, was it Young or Jung?
It was the Young Dragons.
Oh, on Wikipedia it says Jung.
Well, I know, but it's pronounced Young.
Oh, it's pronounced Young, but I'm just Americanizing it because I'm racist.
Yes, exactly.
I see, okay.
Yes.
So it was a recording contract ladder match.
And there were like 2 different objects. There was the gold record and the recording contracts. I was asking, what if one person gets one item and the other team gets the other item?
Well, there was almost that situation.
Did they ever think about that?
Yes. No, they did. Of course they didn't. This is Russo booking. Peanut Gallery was like, he did not like this match.
I resented this entire pay-per-view, but it started with this match.
Yes, Tank Abbott looked like a sycophant where where a 3 count were his personal fleshlights, essentially.
Right, pretty much.
He was totally out of place. The crowd did not like Abbott whatsoever, but they did get into this match. Mm-hmm. I thought it was okay. I thought there were some really decent little spots here, and all the workers are pretty good. The crowd were kind of up and down with it.
Spot fest,
yep.
Ladder match, blah, blah, blah.
Also, the rivalry going into it was the Young Dragons said that they could sing and dance better than 3 count.
And of course, this is, the 90s and 2000s, okay? Boy bands were all the rage.
And obviously, racial sentiments were drastically different than what they are now. So, there were some things here where I'm pretty sure I said over 10 times this would not work in today's age.
No, it would not.
So, I thought it was a decent, fun little ladder match opener.
They just... My God, some of these spots were just.
They were some of them were really bad. Nobody knew what was happening. Everyone was out of place.
Just doing whatever,
Right. And then they had a backstage segment, and Peanut Gallery did not believe me that Rey Mysterio Jr. was Rey Mysterio Jr. because he looked like he was, 9.
Yes.
He had like a chick hanging off of him, filthy animals, talking to the cat who was the commissioner of WCW, who faced the great Muta in the second match, which we'll get into now. I was personally very offended by this. This is the great Muta.
Yes. One of the most decorated professional wrestlers in history.
Face Hulk Hogan in a mega.
Isn't he like the Ric Flair of Japan?
Yes, he is the Ric Flair of Japan. He brought the mist into mainstream.
Right.
And the costumes, the entranceway, the whole mythos around the Great Muta is there.
Right.
Also, moonsault. Come on. He didn't innovate it, but he made it famous.
Yeah.
And the cat just
70s porn.
The Great Muta's theme music alone would not work in today's age.
No.
It was probably it was so poppy and racist, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. But it was clearly dubbed over.
Yeah, it was.
Though. That was kind of disappointing because I love the Great Muta's theme song.
Yeah.
But
I don't think they have the rights to it.
Yes, the cat's theme was basically ripped off of a 70s porn. I thought, the cat was going to, show his gigantic bush, and the Great Muta was going to take it up the tailpipe. I don't know what the hell that was.
I don't know.
Muta's balding was incredibly annoying throughout this entire show. I could not look away. I'm like, my God, he looks like a meth addict.
Right.
So, the match was very inoffensive, honestly.
But, besides, all the rest of the cultural insensitivities.
Right.
That wouldn't fly in today's world.
Right. Tygress from the Filthy Animals came out to assist the cat. She hit Muta in the head with a chair, which made me cringe, and it did not end up winning. So
I know. So all these people, they just come out, and you expect them to have some sort of influence on the direction of the match, but they just don't.
Right. And the cat hit Great Muta with a spin kick for a clean pin. The cat, who could barely do any kind of karate, beat the Great Muta clean. Multiple G1 climax winner, multiple time world champion in Japan, and when you think Great Muta,
and a 70s porn star defeats him.
Yes. And the cat looked like he just got out of bed too.
Yeah.
So it was like a silky, it was like silk pajamas.
It was kind of weird.
It was really gross. Here we go. In a Judy Bagwell on a 4 match, Positively Kanyon versus Buff Bagwell. This is the first storyline that they actually explained fairly well.
Yeah.
The premise of the match sucks. They could have done it better, but overall I did not hate the storyline. Where it's
but Judy Bagwell on a forklift. Also, that is a Russo creation.
Now, if it was like Judy Bagwell's contract on a pole match, whatever. But
anything on a pole, that's Vince
right.
Russo's.
Also, a fun fact: this was Buff Bagwell's actual mother.
Yes, it was.
This was Judy Bagwell. Positively Kanyon cut a fairly decent promo, and the match I did not hate. I thought the match.
It was okay. It wasn't the best.
The work rate of the match does not precede what the infamy of this match was. We've seen a lot worse matches.
This particular segment is the first thing I think about when I think about New Blood Rising. Is Judy Bagwell on a forklift. That is the first image that comes to mind.
Oh, and then out of nowhere, during the match, David Arquette comes out.
And again, does not influence the outcome of the match.
Runs interference to Kanyon's favor, and does not win. And then Buff Bagwell hit them with a double blockbuster for Bagwell to win.
Yeah.
So what was the point of Judy Bagwell on the forklift? Just to do it.
Yeah, pretty much. They just did it because they felt like
They
it.
could have just done a pinfall match. I thought, you had to, bring Judy Bagwell, down and unstrap her from the whatever.
Right.
Instead of, here's the pinfall, and so Judy Bagwell on the forklift was arbitrary.
Yes. It was there just because Vince Russo.
I really want to cover more, 2000s WCW. So here is where the show got actually good.
This is where it fell apart. So it was a four-way tag team match.
4 referees.
With 4 referees.
Well, no, okay. The 3 of them were outside enforcers.
But it's it doesn't make any sense. Why do you need 4 referees?
Because it's the Filthy Animals and they wanted to get KroniK away. So it was the Misfits in action. Mark Jindrak and Shawn O'Hare, the Perfect Event, which is Mr. Perfect and Chuck Palumbo, and then KroniK for the WCW World Tag Team Champions. And Filthy Animals had possession of the belts, and KroniK were going in there as the defending champions. It was a double choke slam, I believe, on one of the Misfits to win the match.
Yep.
And I thought this match was a good match.
It was very confusing, though. It was I kind of lost track of what was going on because so much was happening.
So much was happening. There were so many people involved, and the announcers did not help whatsoever.
Oh my God, the announcers!
But like watching the match, the stuff that was happening was good. I liked a lot
Yeah,
of
it was fine.
I thought I'm like, wow, this is actually a decently strong tag team division. If they built it up right, they could have done something really cool with it. And KroniK was very over. And so KroniK won. Hooray, they got the belts back.
Hooray.
And we will not see the end of KroniK. Shane Douglas versus Billy Kidman in a strap match. So, the announcers were so obnoxious in this match because Tori Wilson betrayed Billy Kidman to go with Shane Douglas.
Right.
Fine, great. An easy storyline to at least have something there.
Right.
Not a lot to explain.
Right.
But man, they just buried Kidman in every which way. This guy needs to stop stalking Tori Wilson and begging for her to come back. Billy Kidman did not look like he was. Like, he just wanted to wrestle.
Right.
Like, leave him and Shane Douglas to wrestle.
Right.
It was a strap match, and it was a kid crusher for Billy Kidman to win.
Yep.
I thought at this point this was the second best match by far.
Yeah. This is when it got a little bit better.
Right. Obviously, it's Shane Douglas and Billy Kidman.
Yep.
Two very good wrestlers.
Yep.
At this point, they were really building Kidman strong, too.
Right.
Vito came in because Tori Wilson and Shane Douglas and some other rando guy, I didn't get the name nor did I care to, made the save. So it's like, okay, a little storyline progression. Nothing offensive about it. A decent strap match. Nothing to write home to mom about.
No.
And now here is where everything just
yes. I loved this match. It was so bad it was actually good.
Major Guns versus Miss Hancock or Stacy Keibler in a mud rip off the clothes match. That is how they actually worded this match.
And of course, this would not fly in 2020 at all.
There was so. Not only did you have to rip off the clothes of the other female, but you had to pin her in the mud. Did you have to pin her in the mud pit?
I don't know.
Because I swear to God, they were doing pinfalls in the ring.
They were.
So they did. So the mud pit was arbitrary.
Yes, pretty much. And so was ripping off the clothes.
But this match was billed. It was promoted. And it was listed on Wikipedia as the mud rip off the clothes match. But yet you can win by pinfall. So what was the point of this?
Vince
Just
Russo.
to do it.
Vince Russo.
Because boobs. One of the names of these women was Major Guns. And I guarantee you this would not fly.
And I guarantee you they're not referring to a gun. They are referring to a breast.
Yes. And then Stacy Keibler was holding her stomach out of nowhere. For obvious reasons.
Well, I think it's because this is about the time when she had that pregnancy angle as well.
Yes, this is the pregnancy angle, which yet again would not fly currently.
No.
Obviously, if she was like actually pregnant, yes, but she would not be wrestling.
No.
David Flair, who was the boyfriend of Miss Hancock at the time, came out, and during this time, okay, Major Guns pinned Stacy Keibler, right? And this was an obvious grudge match because they were promoting it as such. But when Stacy Keibler was holding her ribs in the mud, not only was David Flair there, but Miss Hancock, or not Miss Hancock, Miss Hancock was worried about Miss Hancock. Major Guns was worried about Miss Hancock.
Okay.
Totally ripping off kayfabe entirely.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was just a reason to show crotch and sexually explicit shit. It was really terrible, but at the same time, there was a charm to it. I probably should have put that in the worst matches of all time list.
Nah, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad.
No, you don't think it was there. It might have like skirted the line for 8.
Anyways,
let's go to the Demon versus Sting.
Hooray. This match didn't last very long. I don't remember it.
It was 52 seconds.
Yep.
And basically, the Demon wanted to join the Dark Carnival with Vampiro and the Great Muta, who are now a tag team, I guess. And he had to beat Sting to prove himself to join the Dark Carnival.
Yes.
I think if you beat Sting, you are much better than at least Vampiro in this circumstance. The Great Muta is a different story.
Right.
Why the Great Muta is not facing Sting, I will never know.
I don't know.
Here, let's just not have fucking the Great Muta versus Sting, because that wouldn't be a really good match. That
no. No.
It doesn't have Kevin Nash involved.
Exactly.
So Sting won. I like how KroniK came out and challenged, beat up Vampiro and the Great Muta, and the Demon did nothing. He just left. Oh, here's the next segment. And then also KroniK went into the ring and challenged the Great Muta and Vampiro to a tag team title match later tonight, and they accepted.
Hooray.
Why?
Because reasons.
Fuck. And now here is where we had...
Ooh, okay.
We had a good match, decent comedy. The crowd was really into it, and I loved it. Mike Awesome versus Lance Storm for the WCW United States Heavyweight Champion in a Canadian rules match. So this is when Storm had the US belt, the Cruiserweight belt, and the Hardcore belt.
Right.
But Canadian flags over them.
Yep.
And they had Jacques Rougeau, or the Mountie, come out to officiate the Canadian rules.
Yes.
So, okay, here's how this goes.
And they didn't explain the rules beforehand.
They had it.
They explained it as the match was happening.
I did not hate that. I actually liked that because it added to that. Okay, now he's just making this up.
Right.
And then this is where actually the commentators were a great service to this match.
Yes.
Because Mark Madden's like, oh, I remember reading that in the book. It's like, what? If what I would have loved to seen if this happened now, this could happen now, by the way.
Oh yeah.
If they posted an arbitrary URL and put the Canadian rulebook on there, or sent it to people as a PDF.
Right.
And so it just says a bunch of random crap in there. It's I remember reading that, and people are interacting with the match. They could have sold the Canadian rulebook at the show and made some money.
They could have.
That would have been cool. Once again, we're helping you, WCW, even though you've been dead for almost 20 years.
Yep.
Mike Awesome pinned Lance Storm first.
Uh-huh.
But then Jacques Rougeau came in and said it was a count of 5 to make an official pin in Canadian rules. Okay. So then he won by submission. The Mountie came back and said he had no tap outs in a Canadian rules match.
Right.
And then it was, oh god, what was it? What was the final one? Because it's
it was a clean 5 count pin.
Right. And
then he said that the opponent has to stay down for 20 seconds for the pin to be valid.
Right. So Storm basically won by, oh god, he put him through the table because then all of a sudden tables were legal.
Right.
And it's that was in the rule book. It's okay, that's how you do, Russo fantasy booking, right?
Yeah.
Because it's okay, arbitrary rules that are obviously helping the heel.
Right.
I love it. So Storm retained.
Yep.
Mountie actually assisted Storm by attacking Mike Awesome, too.
Yep.
And then Bret Hart came out and
so
approved of Storm, too, and people lost their mind. This crowd was so into this match.
Well, because this was taking place in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is in Canada. For those who are not familiar with the matter.
Right. I loved this. Was my favorite match on this show.
It was the best. It was my favorite. I don't say it was the best, but it was definitely my favorite match on the show.
It was definitely my favorite. The crowd was into it. I loved it.
Yep.
And now let's get into bullshit. Vampiro and the Great Muta versus KroniK for the WCW World Tag Team Champions. Right. Muta's already wrestled and KroniK has already wrestled. It was a match.
It was there.
Nothing to write home to mom about. And then the Harris twins, interfered. Uh-huh. And Vampiro and the Great Muta won the tag team belts.
Yeah.
Okay, but why? What was the point? I swear to God. I'm like, why did this happen? Just to do it? Okay, I think I've said that more now. I'm like getting head dizzy. Triple threat match for reasons. Kevin Nash.
Number one contender.
Oh, that's right. Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, and Goldberg. So Goldberg was in a motorcycle accident, in quotes, so he did not come out immediately. But did they wait until like the end of the match for Goldberg to come out?
No. They waited for like 2 minutes in for him to come out.
Goldberg came in, dressed in his gear, with like taped up, 2 minutes in. Why? Like, could they have...
Oh, and this is one of the other infamous moments. Goldberg, this was the one where he didn't want to take the jackhammer.
It was a shoot. It was not a shoot. It was a work
shoot. So it wasn't actually a real thing, but it was based off of a real thing.
Right.
They wanted it to seem like it was real. Goldberg walking out, he got chased down by Vince Russo, and Goldberg just said, fuck you, I'm going home.
Right, and this was Goldberg's last appearance in WCW ever, and Russo did not play involved in this match at that point whatsoever.
Right.
And then, Madeja low blows Kevin Nash twice.
Yep.
Nash low blows Scott Steiner, so once again, the running of the interference was completely arbitrary and did not have to happen. And then Kevin Nash still won with a jackknife powerbomb, and now he's number one contender.
Hooray, because it's fucking... Because it's fucking Kevin Nash, man.
Yeah, fuck, man. Now, finally, the main event, Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T for the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. So, before we actually get into the match, so Booker T was attacked by Jeff Jarrett when he got to the building. He was wearing like slacks and like a white shirt when Jarrett attacked him.
Oh, that's right.
So then
it was really, really bad, like trying to attack him at his car kind of thing.
Yes, and then I'm like, okay, whatever. Injury angle for the baby face to rise up against the heel.
Right.
I don't mind that. It's fine. So then they show Booker T in the trainer's area. So not only did he somehow lose his shirt, but then all of a sudden he's wearing like basketball shorts, and then he still dresses himself injured to compete where clearly he's having issues. It's really, really small. It means nothing.
Right.
But these kinds of details are important because there's no continuity.
Right.
This is why WCW lost, because small, minute details are so incredibly important.
Learn from that, WWE.
I basically have a marketing degree.
Right.
I've taken marketing classes for, I think, for like 3.5, almost 4 years while I was in college. So I know this. I understand how continuity in anything is incredibly important in books. You're a writer.
Yeah.
Continuity is really important.
Right.
Things have to make sense. And on a visual plane, people are going to see this kind of continuity problem, and it ruins your experience. You don't know why, but it does.
Right. But yeah, it is. It's really bad. Because we're kind of running short here on time. We want to wrap this show up. Next week we are.
Bookend for the win. Booker T won.
Oh,
there was no reaction. People were fucking off, and that was the end of the show.
So before we give our reaction, our favorite match of the night, tell us what next. Next week is SummerSlam weekend. So SummerSlam NXT Takeover.
Yes.
We know that there's an Impact event next week as well, but we do not cover it until both parts are finished.
It's a 2-week event.
Yep.
So we have to wait until night number 2 to be done
for us to do our So we won't cover it next week, but the week after definitely. We also have Payback coming up at the end of the month.
Oh shit! I totally forgot about Payback.
It's gonna be great. So anyways, Tiger Height, your favorite match of that night, and what was your grade?
I'm going to give the overall show, New Blood Rising, I'm going to give it a C-.
Like, no, star rating, not a grade, a star rating. So that would be like what?
I'm going to give it a
2.5?
2.5. I'm going to give it a 2.5. My favorite match overall, I believe, was still Mike Awesome and Lance Storm.
Okay.
For that. The close second was Kanyon and Buff. Honestly, it was Kanyon and Buff Bagwell.
Okay.
Just because, like, if it wasn't for that stupid thing, if they didn't have Judy Bagwell on a pole where it's like a pin or submission with the same circumstances, I would have been okay with it.
I'm going to give it a 2.5 stars as well. I mean, it's about as good as I see WWE doing nowadays, so you have some really good matches in there, and then you have some matches that just fall flat.
Right. And then I was expecting, this exceeded my expectation, actually.
Well, it kind of met my expectation. For WCW in 2000, it met my expectations.
And I swear to God,
and
so many great young stars that are in this card.
And my favorite match was the Mike Awesome Lance Storm.
Right.
Because the storyline was congruent and it was there, and the match itself wasn't bad either.
And the crowd was really hot.
The crowd was really into it. But yeah, so that's what we got for this week. This is just a preview, a little bit of a snippet of what you can get if you donate to Patreon.
But not only do you hear the review of ours, but we watch you can watch the show with us live.
Yes.
100%. Just because it's a private thing, we don't necessarily do it live because then WWE will have an issue.
Yeah.
So we'll send it directly to your email. You click on it and you watch it. You enjoy it with us, and you can.
And we have this great little split screen thing going on,
Yep.
so you can see our reactions live as they happen.
Right.
And you can submit your reactions. We have a chat, so you can submit your reactions and stuff as well.
Yeah, we got a Discord. So and also follow us on social media if you want to keep up to date on when we go live next and what we're doing as well.
Yep.
And I really don't have much else to say other than that.
So, as always, be
majestic.